All right, now for the legs, you see already I've taken some clay already and balled that up into our dime-sized pieces of clay. For those of you at home, if you have the face that you made and you're running out of clay, feel free to sort of cannibalize your old face and pull pieces apart off of that, especially if you have no intention of keeping it or any. I'm sure some of you should have some leftover clay from the face regardless. We don't need a ton more clay, but I know that some of you might be running low, and again, if you are, simply just tear apart the face that we made. We're going to start right now with the lower legs. And what we're going to do for the lower legs is I'm going to take a piece of clay and I'm just going to take that one full ball and just kind of roll it out till approximately the same length as our thigh. All right, pretty much almost there. All right, I'm going to take another one and I'm going to do the same thing. I want two pieces. This is going to be the clay that I'm going to use to sort of wrap around the wire frame for my leg, my lower leg. So it's important that it is approximately the same size. I've got that. What I can do again, and we've done this on multiple occasions already, is I'm going to flatten out those two pieces. I'm going to try not to make them longer. I just want to kind of make them flatter. Think of them as a hot dog bun that is going to wrap around for our lower legs. I'm going to treat the piece of metal in the middle like our meat, and our clay is our bun. But again, the important part of this bun is it should only be about the same length as the thigh, no longer than that. All right, don't try to make this go all the way down the rest of your wire. You should have plenty of extra wire, okay? I set this up that there was going to be a little bit long. I'd rather it be a little bit long than short, but we are not going to cover all of this wire with clay. Again, your thigh should be just about the length of the upper arm, maybe a little bit longer, and the lower leg should again be just about the same length as that. Again, I'm going to put those two pieces together. You can see from the side how I've kind of started to mush them together. I want them to totally cover our metal wire frame, and this part should be something that we've done already 4 or 5 times, so I think you all should be relatively comfortable with this process. Again, we want it to cover all of the wire, and we also want there to not be too much of a seam or a fold there between the two pieces of clay. So we'll carefully mush those things together and smoothen them out. And just try to keep it relatively even. And again, if while you're doing this, this should get a little longer, well, just try to mush it back to the point where it was originally. Okay? All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on some calves. All right, so I'm going to take one piece of clay. I'm going to kind of roll it a little bit, and then I'm just going to try to divide it into 2. I mean, both these little muscles that I'm about to make are going to be side by side, and we could conceivably make them a one piece of clay, but they are 2 separate muscles, and I do think it kind of makes it a little easier to make them if we do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start rolling this out. Okay. I'm not going to make it too long. What I want to do is kind of make that maybe just a little bit longer than half of that leg. Now what I want to do, that's going to be the muscle itself. I want to make the tendon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm just going to kind of roll out and thin out one end. And you can see that's getting a little longer and thinner. That'll be my tendon. This is going to be part of what's going to be my Achilles, and I think a lot of you know where the Achilles tendon is on your leg. I'm going to just roll a little bit of the top part of that. So this one's a little bit thinner. This one's a lot longer and thinner. And then that thick part in the middle, that is our muscle belly. I'm going to make 2 of them. I'm going to roll this out. Again, roll it out to maybe about half of the length of the lower leg. Then take one end and go ahead and roll that out skinnier and longer. Okay? And you could go to the other end and just kind of like pinch that one in a little bit. So we've got thick, thin but not that long, and long and thin here. Let me flip over my body to the back side. These are going to be my calves, and again, I want that thick part right here, okay, the upper part of it to go right over the back of the knee, and I want that really thin long part to go down the length of the leg. That's again going to attach to my Achilles. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one, putting those two muscle bellies pretty much together and just sort of blending those two long pieces that we sort of rolled out, blending them together into kind of one. I can kind of mesh my calf to kind of flatten it just a little bit, just so it kind of hugs around that part of the leg, and then the upper part, which is almost like blending into the hamstring right now, I'm just going to kind of blend that into the back of the knee. So I have a nice full muscle belly over here, and it gets a little thinner and more sort of defined as we get down towards the bottom of the leg. Let's take a look at that from the front, and if I did this right, I should have a little bit of those calves peeking out in the front. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to kind of, since I flip this over, I'm going to pinch a little bit of this edge so I make my shin nice and defined. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to grab one small little pinch of clay, really just like your fingertips. I'm going to go ahead, roll that up into a little ball. And this little tiny little nugget is going to serve as our kneecap. Okay? We're going to go ahead and maybe flatten it out just a little bit. And we're going to place that over the top. And we're just going to kind of connect it right from the upper leg and the lower leg meet. And for right now, we're going to leave that as is. All right. I'm going to do that again for the other one. Grab myself 2 balls of clay. Start rolling them out. Now you don't have to use the upper leg to measure. You just want to make sure that these pieces that you roll out are the same size as the opposite side you already did. So I'm just going to double check that. Looks pretty good. I'm going to make 2 of them. I'm just going to repeat the entire process. Alright, about the same length. Again, flatten them ever so slightly. We don't want them like super flat, but we just don't want them to be completely round. It's a lot easier to wrap them around the wire when they're a little flat. And we'll go ahead and lay them down. Again, trying to keep both sides relatively symmetrical. So if you start doing this and notice the second one you're doing is either much longer or much shorter, please try to make some adjustments and changes to that. Alright, I got my leg wrapped first here. I'm going to grab another piece of clay. Remember, roll that out again. This is for the calves. Roll it out just a little bit. Use that to help yourself pinch that into 2 equal parts. Okay. Start rolling that out. Start rolling that out. Again, roll this thing out till it's about just a little bit beyond half as big as this part of the leg. Take one end Roll that one end thinner and longer. Roll the top end just a little bit thinner. We'll go ahead and make another one. The calves on that side. Okay, two big muscle bellies. Okay. We'll take our figure, flip them over. Got one side done already. Like these two again. Top of this should overlap into the upper leg a little bit. Bottom of this can start to get blended together into one Achilles tendon that is going to just kind of become part of the bottom of the leg. We can kind of fluff up these muscles a little bit if they got a little flat looking. And again, try to make them similar to what you're seeing on the other side. You want to go for some level of symmetry. Kind of press them together, but press them into the leg a little bit. So they just bulge a little bit out at the sides. And then we're going to blend the back of the leg together. And again, you are the surgeon here, so you can reshape things and adjust as necessary. All right, looking pretty close. Okay. Go ahead and flip this over, and then I'm going to just kind of shape up some of the clay that may have gotten a little off. And again, one other pinch of clay, literally just your fingertips. Roll that up. We are a kneecap. Flatten it ever so slightly. And that should go right over top of the connectors here. And kind of blend into your... Okay, we got some lower legs. They're skinny legs, but listen, we're not going to make this little figure filled with a lot of body mass. I'm just going to deal with the anatomy of things. I think that didn't take too long, so I'm going to get started just on the arms as well. I'm going to go ahead and roll this out. And for the upper arm, or the forearm, I'm going to try to keep it to the length of this part of the arm, from the shoulder to the elbow. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of flatten this out a little bit. And we're going to use one piece for this. It's kind of important that we kind of just try to smush that around our wire. So I'm going to slowly kind of take that one piece and literally just try to smush that one piece of clay around the wire. All we want to do is kind of get a little bit of coverage on that wire, so it's just not all metal sticking out. Now I want a tiny little bit of that sticking out. We need a little spot where we can attach the hand. I had a little extra clay that I peeled off, and if you seem to have an empty spot somewhere like I do by the elbow, you can kind of use that to kind of mush in. And this is just going to be the base of our forearm. I'll go ahead and kind of smooth that out and sculpt that up. Trying to get rid of any folds and things like that. Got a little piece of metal sticking out at the end. That's good. It's about the same or similar to the length of the arm. And I've got one more piece of clay for the day, so I'm going to do the one on the other side. I'll do that part again. I'll go ahead and roll this thing out. Roll it out to approximately the same length as the upper arm. I'm going to go ahead and flatten that. And then again, try to wrap it around that wire. Just kind of like sandwich it around it. We're making the upper arm, the lower arms, the forearms a little thinner than our legs. Once again, if you have a little bit of extra clay that's coming off, you can always pull a little bit off and then just move it around as necessary. And again, we want a little bit of metal sticking out at the end over there. We want that little bit of metal sticking out so we have something to attach the hands to. As promised, I try to keep these demos to less than half of the period so you have time to watch them and work. So I'm going to stop this one here. I'm just going to call this Forearms and Calves Part 1, and I will get into Part 2 tomorrow. And that should end us up with at least our arms and legs, main parts of our body done. All I'll probably add to that will be our hands and feet. And then after that, the only other demo I'll do later in the week if anybody wants to make a head. I'm going to treat that as an extra bonus part to this project. I'm not going to make it mandatory, but I will give extra credit for that. Other than that, our goal is to get this body, this torso, the arms and legs done. However far you get is how you get, you know, and then I will give credit for everything that you do. And if you get everything done, you know what kind of grade you're looking at. For those of you who are behind and haven't handed stuff in, I implore you to make sure you hand in what you have as you get it done. Everything you leave blank is nothing. Anything you give me as far as kind of done, sort of done, almost done, is worth something. So please realize with just 1 week left here, I still believe we have plenty of time to do this, but not enough time if you're sitting around not doing anything.